Andrew was walking down the street one day when he noticed a quarter on the sidewalk. He tried to pick it up, but it wouldn't budge. It appeared to be glued to the floor. He thought to himself, "Well, that's odd," and after a few more attempts, he continued to go about his day. On his way home, he noticed a man sitting on the floor with a cup. He tried not to make eye contact, knowing he didn't have any money to give him. He felt bad afterwards. The next morning, Andrew walked to the train station because his car wouldn't start. He saw the man from yesterday sitting with a cup again, jingling his change. He remembered back to the quarter from yesterday and thought to himself, what makes a person glue money on the sidewalk? He gave the man some change he had in his pocket. The man thanked him with a big smile, and Andrew awkwardly grinned before continuing on his way. He was sitting on the train when a very loud man sat next to him. He seemed to be very angry, because he kept yelling some pretty foul language through the receiver of his cell phone. A mother covered the ears of her child, and several people glanced at the man as if they wanted to say something but didn't have the courage to do so. Andrew worked late that night and was scolded for being tardy, even though he explained his car wouldn't start. His cubicle neighbor attempted to make small talk, but after the usual greetings and talk about the weather, they both remained silent for the rest of the workday. His car was in the shop the following morning, so he walked to the train station again. As he was walking down the sidewalk, he noticed the man with the cup in his usual spot. When asking a businessman for some change, the businessman proceeded to yell, "Get a job!" before rushing off down the block. He watched as the businessman turned a corner and thought to himself, wow, that was pretty rude. He made small talk with the man with the cup and discovered his name was Bill. Bill used to be a businessman, but after some pretty bad decisions, he lost his job, his home, and all his possessions in the same week. Andrew felt bad for Bill and gave him another $1 before heading to work. Andrew walked to the train station and noticed the quarter was still glued to the sidewalk. He eyed it for a few seconds before he continued on his way. At work, his computer was acting funny, and as a result, he had to stay late again, awkwardly making small talk with his cubicle neighbor about a sports team he knew nothing about. The following week, his car came out of the shop, and he had a rather large bill he could not afford. They kept his car until he could come up with the money. He walked to work for several days, talking with Bill and giving him $1 every chance he got. He learned Bill was married at one point, but without any children he knew of. One Tuesday, Andrew noticed Bill was nowhere to be found. The quarter that was glued to the ground was gone as well. He thought to himself, I wonder who managed to get it off the floor. The next day, he lost his job. The following week, his home and car. Andrew sat in the park, thinking to himself how things went so wrong so fast. He thought, maybe if I had worked longer hours, or his computer didn't freeze half the time, he would get his assignments done on time. Maybe if I didn't give my money away every day, I would have had a car to sleep in. Maybe, if I could have managed to pick up that darn quarter, I would have had enough change to get to work on time that Tuesday morning. That night, he cried himself to sleep behind some bushes in the park. A month has passed, and Andrew was sitting down with his nice red cup, seeing if anyone could give him a quarter, which would be just enough for a single sandwich. He jingled his change in hopes someone, anyone, would help him get some food, as he had not eaten in several days. It was getting pretty late, but just as he was about to head back to the park to sleep, a man put several dollars into his cup and made eye contact with him, smiling from ear to ear. After several moments, tears began to roll down Andrew's face as he was greeted with a familiar, "Hello, old friend." Andrew learned that because of the money he had given Bill over the period of several weeks, he was able to afford a nice enough suit and a haircut that helped him land a good job. He wanted to thank Andrew, because he was often ignored by people who always seemed to be in a rush to go somewhere. However, Andrew was always there every morning. Bill was not able to find Andrew, but hoped he would bump into him one day on the sidewalk. Bill was nice enough to let Andrew stay in his tiny one-bedroom apartment until you could land another job. They would eventually split rent and groceries, and over time grew to become very good friends. After a year of having been together, they would begin recalling the fateful events that would lead them to meet. They would spend Sundays feeding ducks at the park and volunteering at soup kitchens. Whenever they would see someone that needed help, they would often buy them food because they know what it is to be in their shoes. They would go on continuing to change the lives of people they meet, always with a smile, knowing that while not everyone in the world will be kind enough to lend even a quarter if they are able to, there will always be someone else who will.